This is my sketch illustration of an evil Halloween pumpkin, and today I'll guide you through each of the steps so that you could draw this yourself. So grab a pencil and paper and let's get started. Welcome everyone and thanks for joining me today. For this lesson I'm going to be starting off with this 0.7mm mechanical pencil with a 2B graphite stick. Now if you don't have a mechanical pencil, anything you have around the house will work just fine. Let's begin by establishing the size and shape of our pumpkin with some guidelines. So start in the center of the page at the very top. I'm just going to sketch a line coming all the way down towards the bottom. Now from the center, we're going to draw another line going across from left to right. Now for this design, I want to make the pumpkin look like an oval, so it's going to go wider across the sides and flatter along the top and bottom. So from the center point, we're just going to locate the top of our pumpkin right about here. Just going to mark that off. Let's measure that same distance from the center down towards the bottom. So I'm going to mark that off. Now I want to do the same thing across this horizontal line, but we want to go further out. So I'm just going to start right out here. And then measure that same distance from the center over towards the right side. And then we want to connect the center point of each mark with a curve, and we're going to create our oval going out toward the side. Now this oval doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to get the right size and general shape. So just go back and just smooth this out as best we can. And we're going to come back and just modify the shape later. Now that we have the general shape and size of our pumpkin, we're going to start adding some of those details. I want to start by adding a gap in between the eyes. So from that center point, let's move over towards the left. Right about here, it's going to sketch a line going up and then down. Let's measure that distance over towards the right and do the same thing. Now from these 2 points, we're going to angle the eye. We're going to go up and then out with an angled line towards the outside of our oval. Let's draw the bottom of the eye. So from the end, we're going to step in. Draw almost like a half circle coming down. We're going to come below the center line and then just pull that up towards the inside point. And we just line that up on the right. Let's go back to the center point. We're going to draw the nose with a triangle coming down out toward the left and right. And we're just going to flatten that off. Now I want to give our pumpkin a large smile. So from the outside of the eye, we're going to step out to right about here from that center line. Curve this down and then in towards the middle, go out and then up towards the right side. So we're going halfway between the eye and the outside of the head. Let's open up the mouth. Starting back on the left, curve this down and then in. That's going to flatten off the bottom with a slight curve and then come down from the right side. Let's go up to the top of our pumpkin and add that stem. We're going to start over on the left side. We're going to start by curving this in and then up toward that center line. Now it's going to curl this around, going around. Now we want to swirl this up and then out. Let's go over towards the right side. Just going to draw the right side of the stem. And now we're going to taper this so it gets narrower. We're just following the outside curve and then going out towards a point. Now at this stage, we're going to go back and clean up our drawing by erasing some of these guidelines. Now at this stage, we're going to go back in and add a second level of detail. Let's start by adding those ridges going across the top of our pumpkin. So in the center, just going to lightly sketch a line coming down, just coming down towards the nose. And I want to round out the top of each ridge. So we're going to go up, come down on each side. Now I just want to bend this out, going out and then down. And we don't have to go all the way down towards the bottom. Let's add another ridge. We're going to step over, curve this up. I'm going to bend this out so it goes further out towards the eye. Let's add one more on the side, going around the eye. Come down around the mouth and just pull that in towards the bottom. Now I want to go back up to the top. I want to wrap those ridges going around that stem. So we're going to start from the top of this curve. We're going to pull this up and then just down towards the side of our oval. Now let's go back up to the top. We're going to pull this up and then down. And we're just going to make our way back in behind that stem. Let's add some ridges across the bottom. So starting in the center, come down and then up towards the mouth, step down, add another ridge, going around, and we'll add another one coming up towards the side. Now we're going to be cutting out the eye, so we're going to draw a thick edge along the inside, starting from the very top. Just going to follow that curve coming down, and just blend that in towards the inside. Let's do the same thing on the right. So it's thicker along the outside, and then we'll taper that in. Along the bottom of the nose, we're going to step up, draw a thick edge across the bottom. Now we're going to add some teeth across the top. So I'm going to start right in the middle. We're going to add the sockets. We're going to go up and then down. So we're going to add these little bumps going all the way across, just using this as a guide, going across towards the corner of the mouth. Now inside each of these curves, we're going to add a tooth. We're going to come down from the inside and then up towards the outer point, and then do the same thing on the right. Now we just want to continue going all the way towards the outside. Now we also want to add a thick edge along the outside curve of the mouth. So we're going to start underneath this tooth, bend this down and then in towards the bottom. Let's add some sockets across the bottom, starting from here, curve this down and up, and just work our way across. Let's add another tooth going up from the bottom. Let's go back and do one final cleanup before we get into the details and shading. And once we finish cleaning up our drawing, I'm going to go back in and use this rough sketch as a guide to help us layer on some more details. Now I want to start by adding a thick edge across the inside of the brow. So we're going to start from this point. We're going to add a thick line coming up and then in on both sides. I'm just going to curve this up and then out, just fading that out towards the top. Now along the top edge of the eye, we're going to add these little notches and cracks. We can offset this by moving down and up. Also opening it up a little bit. And just working our way out towards the side. Let's do the same thing on the right. Again, just adding a thick crack. Now right here, just going to add that little bevel on the inside. Now let's trace the bottom of the eye. So we're going to go thicker along the outside and just fade that down. Let's go to the inside, just working our way around. So this line's going to be thicker along the inside, and I just want to fade that out. Let's add a thick trim along the inside. So we're just going to trace this out thicker, going all the way across. We can also go in and add some cracks coming down from the eyes. Now along this inside bevel, we're going to start from this line along the inside, angle this out, and then pull that down. So you get a little bit of perspective. And we're going to do the same thing across the nose. Just adding some cracks on the outside edge. And now just working our way across the mouth. Now along each of these curves, along the top, just going to add some cracks, also in between. And we can offset this so that each curve is not perfectly symmetrical. Now for the outer perimeter of the head, I'm going to switch to my 0.9mm just to get a little bit more thickness and contrast. So we'll start with those ridges first. And again, we're just using this rough sketch as a guide, so we can modify the shape if we need to. I'm just going to give a little bit more curvature and shape. I'm just going to work our way around the side, just bumping this out a little bit in certain areas. And I'm just going to puddle this along the bottom. So I'm going to pull some of that weight along the bottom edges. So coming down, just sagging that down. I'm just going to use the side edge of my 2mm pencil just to add a soft shadow across the base of that stem and just fading that up. So just working with the flow of this curve. So just pulling this up. So this is just the base layer of our shadows and tones. Just working our way around lightly. And we're going to come back and layer on some more detail on top. Now on the base of those back ridges, I'm just going to lightly shade in the bottom and then fade that up. We're just pushing this area into shadow. Now along this ridge, just going to darken that up. Darken up the bevels around the eyes. And then we're going to go back and just add another layer of texture inside that stem. So starting from the bottom, just going darker. And again, just working with the flow of that stem going around. Also adding some texture inside the pumpkin skin. I'm going to use my thinner pencil, my 0.7, to add those micro details. So there's just some of those fine lines going in. Now with the eyes, I'm going to start off dark along the outside, and we're just going to fade that in just towards the center of the eyes to make them look like they're glowing. Now we're just going to fill those areas in between the teeth. Now, as you get closer to the end, we're just going to tighten up our shadows and details, and always be sure to sign our artwork, and that's pretty much it. There's a sketch illustration of a Halloween pumpkin. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you did, you might want to check out this video over here. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.